Hello guys. So now we shall be discussing in a complete detail about the limbic system. Okay. So before we start our discussion with the limbic system, first of all, we have to discuss what are the anatomical components of the limbic system. Okay. So limbic system is basically divided into three components. So what are they? For example, first of all, let us discuss about the limbic system and its anatomical components. So what is the function of the limbic system? I hope all of you know that the limbic system is mainly dealing with the emotions and all, right? So regarding the functions, much more you will be discussed in physiology, but right now we will anatomically discuss what are the different parts of the limbic system. So within the limbic system, we have got three important parts. Okay, so the first important part is called as a cortical part, and the next important part is called as a subcortical part, and the third important thing is the interconnecting part. Okay, so the first important part of the limbic system is called as the cortical part of the limbic system. So you can also write it as cortical components. Cortical components. So what is the other name for this cortical components? Or you can also call the cortex is always outside, right? So these are the components that are present in the outer parts of the. So the outer parts of the limbic system are nothing but called as a cortical parts. Parts which are located deep to the outer part is called as a subcortical part. Okay, so cortical components are also called as a outer part of limbic system. Outer part of the limbic system. The next important part is nothing but called as a subcortical part. Subcortical part, or you can also call it as a deep part of the limbic system. Deep part of the limbic system. The third important thing is the interconnecting fibers of these components. Okay, the interconnecting fibers. Interconnecting fiber tracts of these components. So we even need there should be some tracts, right? For example, these are the tracts. So what are these tracts doing? These are the tracts that are connecting the cortical component with the deep component, right? So that comes under the third part. So first of all, let us discuss about in detail about the cortical components. After that, we will go in detail about the subcortical components. So first, let us discuss about the cortical components. So what are the different parts of the cortical components? What are the different parts of the cortical components, guys? The first important part which you will come across is called as a cingulate gyrus. Cingulate gyrus. Okay. The second important part is called as the isthmus. Second important part is called as the isthmus. Third important part is called as a parahippocampal gyrus. Okay. Parahippocampal gyrus, and the fourth important part is called as the uncus. So these are the four important parts. So what are the four important parts? Once again, one is called as a cingulate gyrus, second one you called as a isthmus, third is called as a parahippocampal gyrus, and the fourth important part is called as the uncus. So let us right now see what are these structures. Okay, so before looking at these structures, again I wanted to draw the medial part. Okay, the medial part of your cerebral cortex. For example, if you take like this as a cerebral cortex, this is called as a supralateral surface of the cerebral cortex. Now this is your right cerebral hemisphere, this is your left cerebral hemisphere. Both the cerebral hemispheres are joined together. Now what I am doing is that I am separating both the cerebral hemispheres. When I separate both the cerebral hemispheres, this part which you can see is called as a medial part of the cerebral hemisphere. So now I will draw the medial part of the cerebral hemisphere. So this is the medial part of the cerebral hemisphere. In this medial part of the cerebral hemisphere, this part which you can see exactly in the center like this, right? So this part is called as your corpus callosum. This part is called as your corpus callosum. Now this corpus callosum is having three different parts. What are the three different parts? See here you can see this red color thing over here. This red color thing is nothing but called as the genu of corpus callosum. What is it called as? It is called as the genu of corpus callosum. Next, this green color thing which I am drawing right now is called as the splenium of corpus callosum. Now after the genu and splenium, this part which you can see right now over here, this is called as the body of the corpus callosum. So there are three important parts. This red color one is called as the genu of corpus callosum. Let me write it down. So this one over here is called as your genu of corpus callosum. The green one is called as your splenium of corpus callosum, and the remaining part is called as a body of corpus callosum. Now if you look here, attaching the genu as well as the splenium, you have got a structure in this way. So this structure which is attached from the genu all the way to the splenium, this part is called as a fornix. So this part over here will be called as your fornix. Okay. Next important thing is that you got another structure between the body and between the fornix, you see. So this structure which is connecting the fornix to the body, this structure is called as the septum pellucidum. Okay, so this particular structure is called as septum pellucidum. So this is your septum pellucidum. Next important thing is that on the medial side, here if you see, here there is a sulcus in the center. So this sulcus which is located in the center is called as the central sulcus. Central sulcus. So first what we will do is that we will draw all the sulcus whatever are located here, and after that we will look about the gyrus. So let me rub this part over here so that I have to draw the structures, and I hope you know that this is the genu, right? Next important thing is that surrounding this corpus callosum there is a sulcus like this, you see. Surrounding this corpus callosum there is a sulcus, and this sulcus is called as callosal sulcus. Why it is called callosal sulcus? Because this is a sulcus that is surrounding your corpus callosum. So this sulcus over here you call it as callosal sulcus. Callosal sulcus. Okay. Just above the callosal sulcus over here, you have got another sulcus that is going all the way and it is reaching onto the top. This sulcus over here is called as cingulate sulcus. This sulcus over here is called as your cingulate sulcus. So far three sulcus we have discussed, three sulci we have discussed. One is called as the central sulcus. In front of the central sulcus, all the way covering your corpus callosum, you have got cingulate sulcus, and completely from the let us say genu all the way till the splenium, you see a sulcus like this, and half moon shaped sulcus. This is called as callosal sulcus. Next important thing is that if you look at the genu over here, just in front of the genu, you have got one more structure. You see this structure which is located exactly in front of the genu or below the genu, this is called as the rostrum. Okay, so again I cannot write it now because I don't want to disturb the picture. So this is called as a rostrum. Next, attached to the rostrum, you have got one more structure like this. This structure over here is called as your anterior commissure. Okay, so attached to the rostrum, what is this? This is your anterior commissure. Just below your anterior commissure, you have got one more structure like this. This structure is called as lamina terminalis. Okay, so these things I have already talked in the previous lectures. So that is the reason why I am not writing it down here. So you have got the red color one called as genu. Beneath the genu you have got a rostrum. Beneath the rostrum you have got anterior commissure. Below the anterior commissure, this part is called as a lamina terminalis. So later on if I have some space, then I will write down these things. But for now, let us proceed on to the next important thing. Next important thing over here is that here exactly you have got another sulcus, right? So what is the name of this sulcus over here? First of all, what is this lobe over here? All of you know that this lobe is called as a frontal lobe. Okay. After that, this lobe is called as a temporal lobe. Okay. Next, this part is called as a parietal lobe, and this one is called as a occipital lobe. So in the parietal lobe, right, in between the parietal lobe, I have drawn this sulcus over here. So that is why it is called as intraparietal sulcus. Right. So if you can see this sulcus here, where is this sulcus located? This is your splenium. This sulcus is located above the splenium. That is why you call this sulcus as suprasplenial sulcus. Okay, so this sulcus over here is called as supra. Next, on the back, posteriorly. Posteriorly, if you see, here you have got a sulcus like this. This is called as posterior occipital sulcus. Okay, this sulcus over here is called as posterior occipital sulcus. Next, you have got one more sulcus that is coming all the way like this. This sulcus over here is called as calcarine sulcus. Okay, so one is your posterior occipital sulcus and the other one is called as your calcarine sulcus. So this sulcus over here is called as your posterior occipital sulcus. Okay, and this sulcus over here is called as your calcarine sulcus. This sulcus over here is your calcarine sulcus. Okay, just beneath your calcarine sulcus, parallel to this calcarine sulcus, there is one more sulcus like this, right? So just beneath your calcarine sulcus, there is one more sulcus which is exactly lateral or collateral to this calcarine sulcus. You call this sulcus as collateral sulcus. So this sulcus over here is called as collateral sulcus. So this one over here is called as your collateral sulcus. So this is your collateral sulcus. Okay, right. Next important thing is that, so what is this part here called as? I've just now told you, this part over here is called as your beneath your anterior commissure. This part is called as your lamina terminalis. Just in front of this lamina terminalis, you have got a sulcus in this way, right? So this sulcus is in the form of a hook shaped, right? So this hook shaped sulcus is called as a rhinal sulcus. This sulcus is called as a rhinal sulcus. Okay, so what are the different kinds of sulcus we have discussed? First sulcus we have discussed is the central sulcus. Just beneath that we have discussed is the cingulate sulcus. After that we have discussed callosal sulcus, then suprasplenial sulcus, and this is the posterior occipital sulcus, calcarine sulcus. Lateral to it we have got collateral sulcus, and finally a hook shaped sulcus is called as rhinal sulcus. Now after the discussion of sulcus is done, now we shall discuss about what are the different gyri we have got. Let us say exactly here, exactly what is the central sulcus, right? So attached to the central sulcus, right, attached to the central sulcus, you see a U-shaped sulcus over here, right? So this U-shaped sulcus is present, completely enveloping or completely surrounding your central sulcus. So anything surrounding the central is called paracentral. So that is why this sulcus or this lobule, you call it as paracentral lobule. So this one over here is called as paracentral lobule. So this lobule over here is called as your paracentral lobule. Okay, next, in front of that, okay, in front of this paracentral lobule, you have got another important gyrus over here. You see this gyrus which I am drawing right now, right? So this gyrus which I am drawing right now, this gyrus is called as frontal gyrus. And next important thing, this is a picture on the medial side or on the lateral side. This is a picture is on the medial side. So you call this gyrus as medial frontal gyrus. Okay, so what is this gyrus? This is called as medial frontal gyrus. So this gyrus over here is called as your medial frontal gyrus. Next important thing, you also come across another important gyrus that is located above here, right? What is this above? Above what? Above suprasplenial sulcus. So what is the name of this particular gyrus over here? I will tell you the name of this particular gyrus later on. First of all, you have to come across this gyrus. You see a gyrus that is located here between the calcarine and the posterior occipital sulcus. So this gyrus which you can see over here is called as cuneus. Okay, what is the name of this gyrus? This is called as cuneus. And can I tell you that this yellow color gyrus is located in front of the cuneus? So I have to call this as precuneus. This is called as precuneus gyrus. This is called as precuneus gyrus. Next important thing is that all the way from here till here, right? So this entire gyrus which I am drawing right now, right? So where is this gyrus present? Can I tell that this entire gyrus is surrounding your corpus callosum? That is why you call this complete gyrus as cingulate gyrus. Okay, so this gyrus is called as cingulate gyrus. Cingulate gyrus. So where is this cingulate gyrus present? This cingulate gyrus is present in front of the cingulate sulcus. That is why you call this entire thing as cingulate gyrus. And cingulate gyrus is enveloping completely, it is surrounding completely your corpus callosum. Okay. So these are some of the important gyrus which you know. Right. So these are some of the important gyrus which you have to know. And there are also other gyruses. For example, let us say, you see this gyrus that is located in the collateral region. So this gyrus is in the form of a tongue, right? So this gyrus which is in the form of a tongue that is located between calcarine sulcus and collateral sulcus. So this gyrus over here, you call this particular gyrus as what gyrus? Not collateral gyrus, you have to call it as lingual gyrus. Okay, so you have to call this gyrus as lingual gyrus. This particular gyrus is called as lingual gyrus. Next important thing is that if you look here carefully, here you can find few more gyrus. For example, just beneath your fornix, you see here, just beneath your fornix, you have got one more gyrus over here. So this gyrus which is located beneath your fornix, this is called as parahippocampal gyrus. So this particular gyrus over here is called as your parahippocampal gyrus. This particular gyrus over here is called as your parahippocampal gyrus. Next, down here you have got one more gyrus if you see. Where is this gyrus located? This gyrus is located within the hook of rhinal sulcus. You see this gyrus? Right? So this gyrus is nothing but called as uncus. What is the name of this gyrus? This particular gyrus is nothing but called as uncus. So what is uncus? Uncus is a hook shaped gyrus. Where is it located? It is located nearer to your rhinal sulcus. Okay. Next, behind your parahippocampal gyrus, you have got one more gyrus over here. Behind your parahippocampal gyrus, you see this particular gyrus here. So this gyrus which is located behind the parahippocampal gyrus is nothing but called as your isthmus. So this particular part is called as your isthmus. This is called as your isthmus. Next important thing is that in front of this rostrum, what is this? This is called as your rostrum, right? So you see this part, this part which I am highlighting right now, you see this one, this is called as a genu. Beneath the genu you see this part, this is called as your rostrum. Okay, now in front of the rostrum like this, you have got one very important structure. So this structure that is located in front of the rostrum, this is called as paraterminal gyrus. So what is this gyrus which is located over here? See, this part is called as your paraterminal gyrus. Paraterminal gyrus. Okay, and in front of the paraterminal gyrus also you have got one more gyrus like this. Okay, so this gyrus located in front of paraterminal gyrus is called as subcallosal gyrus. So what is this gyrus? This is called as your subcallosal. Okay, so overall what are the sulci and gyrus we have discussed over here? First important thing you need to know is that we have got these four sulci. What are these four sulci? Central, cingulate, callosal as well as suprasplenial. Why are you calling it as suprasplenial? Because it is located above the splenium. Okay, where is the splenium? See, this green one is called as your splenium. Next important thing, just beneath the fornix, this particular gyrus, whatever you can see in beneath the fornix, this is called as your parahippocampal gyrus. Back of parahippocampal gyrus, this part over here is called as your isthmus. In front of the rostrum, this particular gyrus which you can see over here, this is called as your paraterminal gyrus, and in front of the paraterminal gyrus, this one is called as a subcallosal gyrus. Next, backside on the posterior or on the occipital pole, you have got posterior occipital sulcus, and down here you have got your calcarine sulcus. Between the calcarine and posterior occipital, this particular gyrus you see here, this is called as a cuneus. Okay. Next important thing is that here you have got lingual gyrus, you know that, and if you go up, this one over here is called as your cingulate gyrus. Okay. Next, above this, above what? Above suprasplenial sulcus, you have got a gyrus called precuneus. Why are you calling it as precuneus? Because just in front of that you have got cuneus, so before that it will be precuneus. And here it is frontal gyrus. Why medial? Because it is on the picture is completely on the medial side. So these are the gyri and sulci that are located on the medial aspect. Now let us look at the list. Where is your cingulate gyrus located? So this is your cingulate gyrus. You see, this particular part is your cingulate gyrus. So this is your cingulate gyrus over here. This is the first part. Second part, where is the isthmus located? See, this part over here is called as your isthmus. Okay. Third important part, where is your parahippocampal gyrus located? So this is your parahippocampal gyrus. And fourth important part is uncus. Where is your uncus located? So this part over here which you can see is called as your uncus. Okay. So all these structures whatever you have seen right now, they form the cortical components. For example, if someone asks you what are the cortical components of the limbic system, so these are the cortical components of your limbic system. Okay. Now after the cortical components, the next we shall be discussing is the subcortical part or the deep part. Okay. So what are the subcortical components or the deep components? Subcortical components, or you can also call it as a deep components or deep parts. Okay. So what are the subcortical or the deep parts which you have here? First of all, let us write down the list, and after that let us draw the pictures and see. Okay. The first important part is your mammillary bodies. Next, the second important part is called as your diencephalon. So all those students who have already attended my previous lectures, you know what are mammillary bodies, you know what are diencephalon, and you also know what picture I am going to draw. Third important thing is called as your fornix. Fourth important thing over here is called as your anterior commissure. Next, fifth important thing over here is your amygdaloid body. Okay. And sixth important thing over here is your septal region. What do you mean by septal region? Septal region in the sense septum pellucidum. Next, seventh important part over here is called as your olfactory area. What is olfactory area comprising of? I will draw it in the form of a picture. Eighth important thing over here is your thalamus. And the final ninth important thing is your hippocampal formation. So overall how many pictures we have to draw? Overall I will draw three important pictures. So in the first pictures, mammillary body, diencephalon, fornix, anterior commissure, thalamus, septal region will be covered. In the second picture I will draw the hippocampal formation. Right, in the third picture I will draw what is the amygdaloid body, what is the olfactory area and all. Okay, what are the things that are comprising of the olfactory area? So these are the things I will be drawing in the three different pictures. Okay, right. So first of all, one last thing I have to discuss here is that amygdaloid body. Amygdaloid body has nothing to do with all these three pictures. It is completely different. So amygdaloid body basically you see in the inferior surface of the brain, right? So in the inferior surface of the brain, just attached to the tail of caudate nucleus, you will see this amygdaloid body. So let us first discuss about amygdaloid body and then discuss the remaining structures over here. So first important thing we shall discuss is the amygdaloid body. Now when it comes to the amygdaloid body, first very important thing you need to remember is that amygdaloid body is an almond shaped body, almond shaped structure. And where is this amygdaloid body located? This amygdaloid body is located near the tail. Tail of what? It is located near the tail of your caudate nucleus. For example, let us say that this particular part is your caudate nucleus. This particular part over here is your caudate nucleus, right? Now in this caudate nucleus, this is called as the head of the caudate nucleus, and after that this particular part over here is called as the body of the caudate nucleus. This is called as the body of the caudate nucleus, and this part over here is called as a tail of the caudate nucleus. To the tip of the tail of caudate nucleus, to the tip of the tail of this caudate nucleus, you have got a body here, and this particular body is nothing but called as your amygdaloid body. Okay. Now attached to this amygdaloid body, you have got this particular structure. You see this structure? These are a group of nerve fibers. These group of nerve fibers together, right, they enter into a particular or a specific region. Okay, so these group of nerve fibers entering into a specific region, what will happen is that these group of nerve fibers are called as stria medullaris. So these group of nerve fibers, they are originating from where? They are originating from your amygdaloid body, and they pass all along the tail, they pass all along the body, and near the head what will happen is that these group of nerve fibers, they terminate into 3 different types of fibers. Okay, now in one picture I will show you where it is terminating into these three different group of fibers. You see, it is terminating into 3 different fibers over here, right? So this is how it is terminating. So it is terminating into 3 different types of fibers like this, right? So what are these 3 different fibers? These 3 different types of fibers are called as commissural fibers. So this commissural fiber which is on the top is called as a supracommissural fiber. This is called as supracommissural fiber, and next this part over here is called as the anterior commissural fiber. This is called as your anterior commissural fiber, and this part over here is called as your infracommissural fiber. Infracommissural fiber. Okay. So there are 3 different types of commissural fibers. So one you call it as a supracommissural fibers, next you have got is the anterior commissural fibers, and next one you got is the infracommissural fibers. Okay, and what are all the names of these fibers over here? This fiber over here is called as stria medullaris. So can I tell like this, that stria medullaris is a structure that is originating from this part called as amygdaloid body, and this stria medullaris is dividing into 3 structures. One is called as the supracommissural fibers, next is the anterior commissural, and next is the infracommissural fibers. Okay, infracommissural fibers. Now what I will do is that I will draw another picture showing you the remaining parts like mammillary body, diencephalon, fornix, anterior commissure, thalamus, as well as the septal region. So I will show you this. Now as I will be showing you these pictures, I will also show you that what is the region where exactly these stria medullaris is dividing into 3 different types of fibers. I told you that some random region like this. So this random region is the place where these stria medullaris is dividing into 3 important fibers. So in a picture right now I will show you exactly at which region they are dividing into 3 important fibers. Okay, so this picture again, if you already know this picture, then it is well and good, you can just fast forward the video, and if you don't know the picture, then I want you to watch the complete video. So here this particular thing is called as your cerebral cortex. This particular thing is called as a cerebral cortex. Now in the cerebral cortex over here, this part which you can see over here is called as a medial part of the cerebral cortex. In this medial part of the cerebral cortex, again I am telling you, this part over here is called as your corpus callosum. Did I speak anytime? No. So yeah, here itself I have already spoke that this part is called as a corpus callosum, right? So here we will write the detailed structures of that. Now if this is your corpus callosum, down here you got this red color structure. This is called as a genu of corpus callosum. After that you got a structure on the back here. This is called as a splenium of corpus callosum. Okay, so what is this one called as? This is called as your genu, and this one over here is called as your splenium of corpus callosum. Now attached to the genu as well as the splenium you got this structure. This is called as your fornix. Okay, where is this present? This is called as your fornix. Now next important thing over here is that between the body and between the fornix you got this structure like this. So this structure which is located between the body as well as the fornix, this is called as your septum pellucidum. I was telling you the septal wall, right? So here I was telling you something called as septal region, right? Which is containing what? Septum pellucidum. So this is that septum pellucidum over here. Next important thing over here is that just beneath the gyno, you see a structure that is coming down all the way. So this structure which is coming down all the way is called as a rostrum. So what is this particular structure called as? This particular structure is nothing but called as your rostrum. Okay. Next, beneath your rostrum you see a commissure like this. This commissure over here is called as your anterior commissure. Okay. So this particular commissure over here is called as your anterior commissure. This particular commissure over here is called as your anterior commissure. Next, beneath your anterior commissure, you see an elongated structure like this. So this elongated structure is nothing but called as your lamina terminalis. So this particular structure which I am highlighting right now, this is called as your lamina terminalis. So this is your lamina terminalis. Lamina terminalis. Now, just in front of this lamina terminalis, down here you have got this structure. This is what is called as your optic chiasma. Optic chiasma. Okay. So if you have watched my video on what are the structures that are located in the floor of diencephalon, there you will understand all these structures. Next, behind your optic chiasma, you see another structure like this. This structure over here is called as your optic tract. Okay. Next, on the sides of the optic tract over here, you see a protuberance. You see a protuberance like this. So this is what is called as your tuber cinereum. This one over here is called as your tuber cinereum. So what is happening over here? The tuber cinereum, if you see, these tuber cinereum, they will join together like this. They will join together and form a V-shaped structure. This V-shaped structure is nothing but called as medial eminence. Okay. This V-shaped structure is nothing but called as your medial eminence. Medial eminence. Now, hanging down from this medial eminence, you see another structure. This structure which is hanging down from the medial eminence is what is called as pituitary stalk, right? So this pituitary stalk continues as this particular structure, and this is what is called as your posterior pituitary. Now, just in front of the posterior pituitary, this particular pituitary which you have is called as your anterior pituitary. Okay. So one is called as your posterior pituitary and the other one is called as your anterior pituitary. So this particular part over here is called as your pituitary stalk. Pituitary stalk. Attached to the pituitary stalk, this particular one is called as your posterior pituitary. So posterior pituitary is also given another name that is called as pars nervosa. Pars nervosa, or you can also call it as posterior pituitary. Pars nervosa or posterior pituitary. Now just behind that you have got one more rounded structure here. This is what is called as your mammillary bodies. How many mammillary bodies are located? You have got two important mammillary bodies, one on the right and one on the left. Okay, so from the side view you can see only one mammillary body. So this is your mammillary body. So this one over here is called as your mammillary body. And behind this mammillary body you see this particular structure like this. So this particular structure that is located behind this mammillary body is what is called as your posterior perforated substance. Okay, so this particular substance over here is called as your posterior perforated substance. Posterior perforated substance. So this is what is called as your posterior perforated substance. Next, behind this posterior perforated substance, you see this part which is coming down. This is what is called as your midbrain. Okay, so this particular part is called as your midbrain. Now, and next important thing is that in the center of your midbrain, you see a duct that is going down all the way. So this duct is what is called as your cerebral aqueduct. Okay, so this particular duct over here is called as your cerebral aqueduct, or you can just call it as aqueduct of Sylvius. Next, posteriorly you have got some very important structures. For example, here you have got this particular structure called as pineal body, right, or pineal gland. So attached to this pineal gland you got this structure here, this is called as pineal stalk, and this pineal stalk is dividing into two regions. One is called as the superior laminae, down is called as the inferior laminae. This superior laminae comes anteriorly forward, it goes posteriorly backward, again anteriorly forward and goes and attaches here. Coming to the inferior laminae, it comes all the way down and attaches here. Okay. Now, if you very closely look, you can very clearly see a cavity that is formed over here. So, this cavity which you can see over here is nothing but called as a cavity of your third ventricle, right. So, this particular cavity of your third ventricle is nothing but called as your diencephalon. So, this diencephalon is also nothing but called as your cavity of your third ventricle. Now, this cavity of the third ventricle or diencephalon, I will divide it into two parts. You see, with the help of this line, I am dividing it into two halves. So, the upper part whatever is there, this is called as your thalamus. This is called as your thalamus, and the lower part whatever is there, this is called as your hypothalamus. One is called as your thalamus, another one is called as your hypothalamus. Okay. So, this is the thing. Now, next important thing you need to know here is that here if you look very closely, there is a small depression over here. Depression to what? Depression to the fornix. You see, you see a small depression over here in the place of fornix. So, this small depression which you can see in the place of fornix over here, this small depression here, right, this small depression over here is called as interventricular foramen. Okay. So, this small depression over here, this one over here is called as your interventricular foramen. Interventricular foramen. Okay. Now, just beneath the interventricular foramen, exactly at this particular location, you see, where is this location? The location is beneath the interventricular foramen and behind the anterior commissure. Okay, you see, it is behind anterior commissure and below interventricular foramen. So, let me write it down, below interventricular foramen and behind or posterior to anterior commissure. Posterior to anterior commissure. So here we have got a region, right. So this region which you can see here, this red color thing, so that is the particular region which I am talking about. So exactly at this particular region, this red color thing is not a body, it is just a region which I am explaining you. Battery is 50%. So this red color thing is not a body, this is the region which I am showing it to you. So this is the particular region, right, this is the particular region where this stria medullaris is divided into supracommissural fiber, anterior commissural fiber and infracommissural fiber. So if I ask you, where does stria medullaris divide into supracommissural, anterior commissural and infracommissural, what will you tell? Exactly at which region? This region is located below the interventricular foramen, behind the anterior commissure or posterior to anterior commissure. So this is the place where it is dividing there. Okay. Now next important thing is that in front of this, we have got two important gyrus. What are these two important gyrus? One is called as a subcallosal gyrus, another one is called as a paraterminal gyrus. So let us compare this picture with all the things we have written. Now here, where are the mammillary bodies? Where are the mammillary bodies? See, this is the mammillary body over here. See, this is the mammillary body. How many mammillary bodies do we have? We have got two mammillary bodies, one on the right as well as one on the left. Okay. After that, next we have got diencephalon. Where is this diencephalon? This entire yellow shade whatever I have done over here, this is what is called as diencephalon. Next, fornix. Where is the fornix? See, this particular part over here is what is called as your fornix, right? So next, after the fornix, next we have got anterior commissure. Where is your anterior commissure? See, this is your anterior commissure. Okay, this is your anterior commissure. After that, next we have got septal region, which is called as septum pellucidum. See, this part over here is called as your septum pellucidum. See, this entire shaded part is called as your septum pellucidum. Septum pellucidum. Actually, it looks as if from the red color part, that is genu, all the way till the splenium, your septum pellucidum is attached to all over the corpus callosum. No, actually this is how your septum pellucidum is attached. See, this is your corpus callosum, right? This is your corpus callosum. Let us say, for example, this is your corpus callosum. So, septum pellucidum is attached exactly in the center of your corpus callosum like this. You see, exactly in the center of your corpus callosum, your septum pellucidum is attached like this. So, this is your septum pellucidum that is attached. And where is your fornix? See, down here you have got this structure. This is what is called as your fornix. Okay, and so this one is called as your septum pellucidum. This is called as your septum pellucidum, and this one is called as your corpus callosum. This one is called as your corpus callosum, and this part over here is called as your fornix. This part over here is called as your fornix. Okay, so these are the structures which you can see over here: septum pellucidum, fornix, and all. Now, where is the thalamus? I have already shown you that this part over here is called as your thalamus. After that, where is your olfactory area? Now, for this olfactory area, I have to draw another picture to show the olfactory area. So, all of you look. Now, the picture which I am going to draw is from the inferior surface of the brain. When you look at the brain from the lower border, lower surface, this is how it looks. So, this is your inferior surface of your brain. Now, in this particular inferior surface of your brain, and not to forget that this one is your midbrain. You see, this part over here is called as your midbrain over here. Now, in this inferior surface of your brain, this particular part over here is called as your olfactory bulb. How many olfactory bulbs are there? On both the sides we have got olfactory bulb. Now, beneath your olfactory bulb, this particular structure which you can see here is called as your olfactory tract. This is your olfactory tract. Okay, so what is this? This is your olfactory bulb. Olfactory bulb, and this one over here is called as your olfactory tract. Olfactory tract. Now, at the lower border of olfactory tract, you have got a structure like this, right? So, this particular structure is nothing but called as olfactory trigone. Okay, what is this structure? This is called as your olfactory trigone. Olfactory trigone. Now, just beneath your olfactory trigone, you have got a striae, right? You see a striae that is going like this. You see a striae in the center, and there is a striae medially. A striae that is going away, striae medially, and like this. So, there are three striae. What are these three striae over here? So, one striae is called as a lateral striae. You know which is called as lateral striae. See, this is called as lateral striae. Next, which is in the center, is called as the intermediate striae. And next, which is towards the center, is called as the medial striae. So, what are all these structures? These structures over here are called as your striae. Not striae medullaris, these are just striae. There are three striae. One is called as a lateral striae, another one is called as the intermediate striae, and another one is called as your medial striae. So, there are three important striae over here. Where are they located? They are located distal to the olfactory trigone. Just behind that, you have got some perforations like this. You see, so let me put up this part over here like this. You see, just behind that you have got a substance, right? You see the substance over here. Now within this substance, you have got some small perforations, you see small holes over here. So these perforations which are located within this substance is what is called as your anterior perforated substance. So these perforations over here is called as your anterior perforated substance. And where is your posterior perforated substance located? Where is your posterior perforated substance located? See, behind your mammillary bodies, what substance you have got? You have got posterior perforated substance. And behind this striae, behind the olfactory bulb, olfactory region and all, what perforations you have got? This is called as your anterior perforated substance. So these structures which I have just explained you here, okay. So these all structures which I have just explained you over here, these structures are comprising of what? They are comprising of your olfactory area. Now we understood what is olfactory area. At last we have to discuss what is called as your hippocampal formation, right? So what is your hippocampal formation? Again I have to draw the inferior surface of the brain. Let us say this is the inferior surface of the brain. Now in the inferior surface of the brain, over here you got these foot-like structures here on both the sides. These foot-like structures are nothing but called as hippocampus, okay. So this particular structure which you can see, this is called as your hippocampus. So what is the other name for hippocampus? You can also call it as pes hippocampus, okay. So this is called as hippocampus, or you can also call it as pes hippocampus. So this is called as your hippocampus or pes hippocampus. Now just beneath to this hippocampus or pes hippocampus, you see a bundle of nerve fibers that are running up like this, right? You see these bundle of fibers like this. So these bundle of fibers which are running all the way down from here all the way down up like this, right? So these bundle of fibers which you can see here, these bundle of nerve fibers, are nothing but called as alveus. So these bundle of nerve fibers over here is called as your alveus, okay. Now just attached to this alveus you have got another important structure. So this structure that is attached to the alveus is what is called as fimbria, okay. So what is this structure called as? This structure is called as fimbria. This structure is called as your fimbria. Now continuous with the fimbria, you got these structures over here. This is what is called as a crus of the fornix. This particular structure is called as crus of fornix. Next, above this crus of fornix, you see this structure, an inverted L-shaped structure which you can see. This is called as a body of the fornix. This particular structure over here is called as the body of the fornix. So one is called as a crus of the fornix and the other one is called as a body of the fornix. Next, above the body of the fornix, you see this particular structure here. This particular structure over here is nothing but called as a column of the fornix. So this one over here is called as your column of fornix. So attached to the column of the fornix, this particular body which you can see here is called as your mammillary body. Now you understood where is your mammillary body located. So here you have got your mammillary body. Okay. Now all these things, and by the way, attached to the two crusts, here you have got a group of fibers. What are these group of fibers? These group of fibers are connecting the right half to the left half, right? These group of fibers are connecting the structures on the right half to the left half. So these group of fibers are nothing but called as commissures. Anything which is connecting the right half to the left half is called as commissure. So these group of bodies over here is what is called as your hippocampal commissure. Hippocampal commissure, or you can also call it as commissure of fornix. Commissure of fornix, or you can just call it as a hippocampal commissure, right? Next important thing is that Here on both the sides you have got what? This particular structure which you can see over here, this is called as your thalamus, right? So let us say this is your thalamus, right? This is your thalamus. Now from the mammillary body you see a tract that is going here and relaying on the thalamus like this. You see a tract, I mean a group of fibers, right? These nerve fibers are running on either side and they are relaying on the thalamus. So these fibers from the mammillary body to the thalamus is called as mammillothalamic tract. So this tract is called as mammillothalamic tract. Now if they ask you a question, mammillothalamic tract is relaying on which nucleus? So this nucleus over here is called as anterior nucleus of the thalamus. So if you watch all the nuclei which I have discussed, there you will understand that this is your anterior nucleus of the thalamus. Anterior nucleus of your thalamus. Okay. Right. So whatever I have explained you so far in this entire picture, this is what is called as your hippocampal formation. So all these together comprise of your hippocampal formation. Hippocampal formation. All these things over here will comprise of your hippocampal formation, right? So after this, see, we have discussed all of them. Mammillary bodies is done, diencephalon is done, fornix is done, anterior commissure, amygdaloid body, septal region, olfactory area, thalamus and hippocampal formation, right? And the third important thing we have to discuss right now is the interconnecting fiber tract components. So I'll just write it down. What are the fiber tract components that are interconnected? Okay. So interconnecting tracts components. Interconnecting tracts components. So what are the interconnecting tracts components? The first important thing which is connecting the cortical from the subcortical, one is called as stria terminalis. Stria terminalis. I hope all of you have seen where is stria terminalis located. Second important part is your fornix. You have also seen where the fornix is located. Third important part is mammillothalamic tract. And you also have seen where is this mammillothalamic tract located. And fourth important thing is your anterior commissure. Anterior commissure. So this completes the discussion of the limbic system. So what are the different parts of limbic system we have to discuss? So we just discussed few important parts of limbic system. For example, one is called as a cortical component. Next one you call it as a subcortical component, right? And third one over here is called as a interconnecting fiber tracts component. First of all, cortical components. In the cortical components, we have got cingulate gyrus, isthmus, parahippocampal gyrus and uncus. We have very clearly seen not only those structures, we have also seen the structures other than that. So this is your cingulate gyrus, this is your isthmus, and this part is your parahippocampal gyrus, right? And here you have your uncus. We have also discussed other structures like medial frontal gyrus, paracentral lobule. Why you call it as paracentral lobule? Because it is located on either side of the central sulcus. We have discussed about cingulate sulcus, callosal sulcus and suprasplenial sulcus, right? So these are the structures. Next, subcortical components or the deep part. Subcortical components is consisting of what? It is consisting of mammillary bodies, it is consisting of diencephalon, fornix, anterior commissure, amygdaloid body, septal region, olfactory area, thalamus as well as your hippocampal formation, right? Now, here this is amygdaloid body. And what is this particular nucleus which I have drawn over here? This is nothing but called as your caudate nucleus. This is nothing but called as your caudate nucleus, which is present in the as a part of basal ganglia. So this caudate nucleus has got different parts. So this one over here is called as your head of the caudate nucleus. This is the body of the caudate nucleus and this is the tail of the caudate nucleus. To the tip of the tail you have got a structure called as amygdaloid body. From the caudate nucleus, a group of nerve fibers are arising like this. They pass all over till the head and these nerve fibers divide into three important parts. These three important parts are, one is called supracommissural fibers, this is called anterior commissure and the lower one is called as the infracommissure. Where are they dividing exactly? They are dividing near the caudate nucleus. In this picture, where are they dividing exactly? They are dividing near the inferior. What is this? interventricular foramen below the fornix, and behind anterior commissure. You see this line which I'm drawing right now. So in between this, at this region, this red color thing is the region where it is dividing into 3 important commissures, right? So this is all you need to know regarding the limbic system. And apart from this, let me write down few functions of limbic system which is important for you to know. For example, limbic system is responsible for the thirst. Okay, limbic system is also responsible for hunger. It is also responsible for anger. These are some of the vague symptoms which I am writing. In detail you will study in physiology. It is also responsible for fear. It is responsible for learning. And it is responsible for memory. And it is also responsible for the sexual responses. Sexual response. So these are the reasons, these are the functions of the limbic system, right? So by this we complete the discussion of limbic system. Thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.